Hello, welcome to Two Dogs Games video logs. Today we're going to take a look at our progress on Destiny's Sword, and in particular we're going to take a deeper look at the PAX East prototypes and see how the gameplay is coming along. So let's dive right in and see how it looks. So we start off on our orbital support ship, and this is the front end for the whole game. And basically what we're looking at here is the barracks. This is where we can interact with our characters, we can recruit new team members, we can upgrade our communications technologies, that kind of thing. There's various other sections on this support ship. So there's an engineering bay where we can upgrade our technology and research new items, that sort of thing, craft new things. There's a medical bay where we can deal with the physical injuries for our characters, and that's quite a unique social process that people have to work together to help sort of these characters recover. And we have our combat section, our ready room, where we can change the loadout of our characters and prepare them for battle, that sort of thing. Our insight engine allows us each character to have their own unique personality and psychology, their own backstory, their own history, all that sort of stuff. And that all colors the way a character reacts to different situations. So the way to get to know our characters best, we can look at their character file and look at their history, all that sort of thing. We can see, you know, what they've been through, what planet they came from, what their background is, what kind of experiences they've had. But the best way to really get to know them is to talk to them. So we can dialogue with our characters and actually start to really get to know them, intimately, get to understand what makes them tick, get to understand what they're sort of concerned about, what they're happy about. And right now with the PAX prototypes, we sort of looked at some very serious issues that will affect the character's performance in battle and also affect the relationships between characters. But in general, we can also look at the characters, we can talk to them about lots of happy, positive things too. Did they just get a dog? Did they, have a really great experience on a night out? Are they sort of meeting somebody new and getting romantically involved? So there's all kinds of things going on, both positive and negative. And all of that will impact the way the character feels and more importantly, the way they behave in combat. So it's really important for us to get to know the characters. When we start to talk to the characters, we'll see that they have this emotional state matrix demonstrated in the bottom left corner here. And that'll give us an indication to the overall mood of the character, what they're feeling, and also give us a bit of an idea of the impact of the way that our interactions with that character are also affecting them. So that even the choice of things we say can help build more trusting relationships and sort of help the characters to become more resilient in the future, but it can also set the characters on edge and create a bit of discord. So it's really important to sort of figure out what's the best way to interact with each of the different characters, because based on their personality that may be different. Some may want us to interact with them very often, others may want a very hands-off approach and they may not want to talk to us very much at all unless it's mission related, that kind of thing. So still others, when they struggle, some will maybe reach out to us and talk to us directly. Other times we'll have to talk to other characters, and other characters may point out that there are issues. I'm really worried that so-and-so's not sleeping, or they don't appear to be eating right. That kind of thing. So it can be a real detective story sometimes to figure out how best to manage your characters. The mission we're going to take on, we've had a patrol going through the forests of the planet, and they've discovered an enemy mech, and that's more than one squad can handle. So we're going to need to get a few friends together to take this mech down. So we're actually going to wind up playing a 4-player cooperative battle to take on this mech. So the first thing we'll do from our barracks is we'll jump in. We'll jump across to the ready room, and here we can set our loadout. So we can pick our equipment, we can pick our characters, we can pick the cards we're going to take into battle. So there's a lot of strategy in how we prepare for the upcoming battle itself, as well as what we do in the battle. So here we can see the team that we've got, and then when we're ready to deploy, we go ahead and hit the deploy button, and we dive into the combat. So what we can see here, first of all, it's a blue box prototype where eventually this will all take place in a beautiful and interactive environment where everything will be reactive to the things you do. You know, if it's in the forest, you may be able to set fire to trees or collapse trees, that kind of thing. They may help or hinder you depending on the situation. If you're in the urban environment, you know, you'll be able to knock windows out of buildings and destroy bits of the scenery, and that'll obviously have an impact on the way the population views you. The more collateral damage there is, the more they'll kind of get cross at you being there, and it'll affect your whole campaign as you go along. So again, we have to be really careful about how we treat the environments. Obviously in the industrial sector, there's lots of reactive components. So you know, things that might be explosive or toxic, that kind of thing, radiation exposure, all sorts of things we have to be aware of with our characters and take into account. In addition to that, the environments themselves are fully dynamic, so there's time of day, there'll be weather, all that sort of thing, and all of that will impact how your characters perform based on their own individual characteristics. So what we're watching here is a 4-player cooperative game mode. So we're actually seeing 4 players playing over the network, working together to take this big mech down. Obviously that's a little difficult to replicate right now to show you what all the different hands do. So I happen to have a little bit I pre-recorded earlier from a single player version of this where I have to jump around all 4 seats and play them. But it gives you a better feel for how the mechanics work. So we'll take a look at that, and then we'll jump back into the action here.
So we're going to play the combat demo for Destiny's Sword. So the first thing that we can do is hold in and out with the middle mouse button, and left click and pan will actually spin us around the battlefield. Our team is that we currently have selected is the team with the yellow chevrons. So if I jump to the control team, which is number 4, using the 1 to 4 keys we can change teams, the first thing we can do is play a card to hack the shield of the boss. By dragging the card up, we see the blue circle, that means he's targeted, we can hack him, and that drops his shield, and then we can actually jump to the attack team, number 3, and play some attacks here on that orbital strike here. Jump to the repair team and repair this character before they get hurt too badly. And I can jump back and get the war cry, which will boost all my character's stats. And jumping to the tank team, we can actually get the boss's attention back on the tank team because they're more defensive. They're set up to be able to take that damage. Again, the shield has come back up, so now I have to use a character ability, which is that little circling outline around the character. It means that their ability is charged, so I can take the shield down again, and I can actually stun the boss as well here, which is great, gives me a bit more time. We can drop another orbital strike on the boss. We can jump back to the repair team and repair some of our characters here. I can throw a shield on these other characters, play a few more abilities.
Okay, so that was pretty frantic. That was obviously kind of crazy trying to man 4 people stations with 1 player. But at least it gives you a bit of an idea of how the basic game mechanics work. The main essence of the game is to work together as a team, so whether it's cooperative boss battles or some of our quest-like game modes where you're actually doing these special missions that have different objectives and take you through different areas of the world, or whether it's even progressing through the campaign, there will be lots of opportunities to work together and to hone your tactics collaboratively and sort of see how each of you can help make the other player more effective. All right, and down goes the boss. Fantastic. And what we'll see when we finish the game is that there's a whole raft of progression that happens after each mission. So we get a series of screens that tell us about the statistics of the battle, that tell us what rewards we got. You'll be able to get new weapons and armor and items, things that you can apply to weapons and armors that we're calling chips, that you can augment the armor with and weapons with different capabilities that might give them resistance to certain weapon types. It may make them sort of more effective. It might give them armor piercing capabilities, all kinds of different neat capabilities that you can get. Your cards as well, the more you play them, the more they'll level up. So if you went into a battle having played, say, 4 stun cards, and you played a 5th one in this particular battle, then that card will level from 1 to 2. It'll become more effective and more powerful. Now, that's like everything in this game is something you have to sort of consider and decide, is that the effect you want? For instance, a card like Orbital Strike is very powerful, but as it gets more and more powerful, as it levels up, it's actually the radius of effect is going to get bigger. So you may find that that's great in an open battle like the one we're just playing here, but in a tight urban battle where everybody's sort of intermeshed on top of each other kind of thing, then there's a really good chance you're going to hit your own troops with that kind of a card. So there may be even cases where as a guild you want to coordinate and say, okay, one player, don't level up your orbital strikes, keep them at base value so that we have that really precise targeting effect. While other players in your guild will level it up to max so they have the maximum damage impact. And so then use it depending on the situation you find yourself in, you can use the appropriate version of the card and use the appropriate, get the appropriate effect. In addition to the technical upgrades, there's obviously the character progression too. So what you'll see here is that there's a series of numbers beneath the characters, and that'll show what the achievements your characters have got during that battle. And that's how you unlock the different skill development for your characters. So if you heal more characters in battle, you'll be able to unlock more field medical skills. If you repair more equipment in battle, you'll be able to unlock more sort of engineering skills. If you do more attacks or defend more people, again, you'll be able to progress those combat skills as well. But you also see at the bottom here that we've got the character's emotional state matrix, and that'll show us what the impact of the battle had on the character's emotions. Were they particularly scared during that battle? Did they gain a lot of trust for their squad mate? Did they actually have a bit of resentment for a squad mate that they feel put them in a bad situation? So those will all give us clues as to how the relationships between these characters will develop and things that we need to look out for as commanders. And you'll also see, obviously, the physical injuries that need to be dealt with. Some of those will be, superficial, and they'll just sort of be able to resolve themselves on their own, like cuts and bruises, that kind of thing. Other times it's something substantial or potentially even life-threatening. Might be something like a punctured lung, and then we'll need to actually get back to that support ship, get to the medical bay, and try to recruit the characters we need to heal that injury. So that'll incorporate, coordinating with other players in the guild who have the skills necessary to treat that wound, and bringing everybody together and getting them to help get that character back in the running. So the characters themselves develop emotionally over time, and what we'll see here is that sometimes we'll pick up clues during the combat for things that we need to sort of look at, take a closer look at and explore. Let's take a look at some of the ones that we may have noticed during that combat sequence. So in this particular case, when we have a big explosion goes off, one of our characters this is on the DPS squad, one of our characters, a Rav, says, "Oh my gosh, this I don't want to, I'm sort of, this is bringing back terrible memories and I'm struggling to kind of focus." And we'll notice immediately one of the other characters on the squad tries to sort of help talk him down. She says, "Hold it together, Arav, we need you to get your head in the game," kind of thing. So that's something that we can explore when we get back to the support ship and see, okay, well, what was going on there? Why did that happen and what went on? So back in the barracks, we can talk to Arav here. And as we start to talk to him, there's this whole big story that unravels, and it's a bit like a detective story. We go through all these bits and pieces, and what we wind up finding out was that he's actually suffering from PTSD because at one point he was caught in a big explosion several missions ago that was a big mistake, and it was actually a friendly fire incident, and he thought that was going to be the end of him for sure. So really stressful moment, and then he was sent out on a mission with Jen, who's the character that wound up helping talk him down in the battle. And she experienced this. They were sent out to overwatch this village, and then that village got targeted by another orbital strike, which was again, very close to them. They actually felt the shockwave and the blast back off it. So it really started to sort of, traumatize this character, with being caught in these explosions. And it turns out he hasn't even been sleeping very well because he's been having nightmares about it, that sort of thing. So we see that with the bags under his eyes and everything. So then what happens is that as we talk to this character, we find out that number one, he's struggling with this issue and that it's really affecting him. In actual effect, the gameplay effect that'll have is if he's out there on a combat mission and these explosions go off, there's too many explosions going off near him, he can actually get lost in his own flashbacks, and the effect in the gameplay is that he can become stunned, he'll miss his turn. And as we talk to him, we'll find out that he really leans on Jen, who's his partner, that she really helps to talk him through these circumstances because she's been there before. He really trusts her. And she knows exactly, you know, how to kind of regain his focus. So if she's on the team with him, then that mitigates that chance of him being stunned. So we learn that they really work well together as a unit, in addition to having actual gameplay bonuses because their skills overlap and they help each other. She actually helps him to sort of not suffer these impacts from his struggles. So that's a really interesting combination that we learn to make there. If we were to just put him out on his own and these explosions would go off, he would miss his turn and we'd wind up suffering performance issues because of that. A lot of the game is really about, you know, sort of destigmatizing, reaching out for help and encouraging our characters in particular, but also encouraging other people that we may be dealing with that or are suffering from various mental health struggles to reach out and seek that help that they need to overcome problems that are too much for them to deal with on their own. So in this other instance, we can see that there's a bit of trouble in paradise. We've got this one character, Jae Song, who says, you know, damn it, Mag, do your job. And then you've got this other character, Mag, who's responding, you know, shut up and keep focused. You know, so there's obviously something going on between them. And when we get back to the support ship, even the other characters will be telling us that they're worried about this. We've got this character, Yanni, who's telling us that, oh, I'm worried about Mag and Jay. They got into this scrap and it felt like it was more serious than the usual letting off of steam. So we can confront Mag with this. We can go to and talk to her and we can say, you know, I heard you had an argument with Jae Song. And Mag will kind of be evasive. Oh, you know, it was nothing, no big deal. And the deeper we dig into this, she's very defensive and resistant. It turns out that this character is actually suffering with an addiction problem, and this is what's making her, you know, a little more irritable than usual, and she's starting to get into, it's affecting her relationship with her other crewmates. She's starting to get into fights with them. She's starting to get angry at them. And this is a character who's normally there to protect people. She sees her role as being a very, you know, mother figure for the whole squadron. So there's, you know, it's very out of character. We can see that this is something that's really affecting her deeply. And again, it's about sort of trying to get her to accept her problem and hopefully try to find a way to encourage her to seek treatment for this, to reach out. In Mag's case, she's in such denial about this and she's such a stubborn personality that it may be that we wind up having to order her into treatment. And if that's the case, it's going to be much less effective than if we were able to convince her on her own that she should seek help and to sort of be positive and enthusiastic about the process. So that's one of the things, you know, we'll try to cross that hurdle with her and build that level of trust, that relationship up with her, that we can actually convince her to do that. But if we're not successful at that, then we will have to order her into treatment to at least, you know, sort of regain her effectiveness and to stop the rot that's going through the barracks here because of her issues and because of the struggle she's starting to have with the other characters and the disruption she's starting to cause. We've also got a young medic who's overwhelmed with the amount of suffering they're seeing. So what we can see here is as a character goes down on their team, you know, one of the characters shouts out, medic, and the other character yells, or responds, oh, there's just too much suffering. I'm overwhelmed. I can't help everybody. And so again, we can talk to Yanni back in the barracks and find out that, oh, they're not really getting involved in a lot of the social activities. They're not getting their tasks completed on time. So, you know, there's obviously something going on in this character, and the more we dig into it, the more we realize they're really struggling with the feeling that, you know, they just can't get on top of it. There's just too much. They're not able to kind of make a foothold or make a dent in the amount of suffering that they're witnessing, particularly with regard to the locals as well. So, you know, if we've chosen not to help the locals in a couple of missions, that'll really weigh heavily on this particular character as well. So even the decisions we make outside of the combat can really affect the way the character performs in future missions based on how they're feeling, that kind of thing. So it's really important to get to know our characters, to understand how to motivate them and how to best put them in the position to succeed in future missions. So that's a quick look at the PAX East prototypes. Thank you very much for joining us today, and stay tuned for more updates. So we'll see as it comes together. Our next big show will be at PAX West. So if you happen to be in the Seattle area, come check us out, get your hands on it, actually get to play it yourself. Otherwise, stay tuned for more updates and watch how it all progresses. All right, thanks a lot. See you next time.